All right. Just making sure. Okay. Yeah. Good. All right. Today's articles. So, we're gonna start off with the Hill, and as you can see, I figured out how to get the chat box to show up. So that'll be fun. That'll be cool. Hopefully, this one won't go as long as it did yesterday. So, yeah. There we go. Let's see. Yep. Oh, I got it. Okay. And again, all the links to these articles are in the description below. I already got that all set up. Okay. Why? Of course, we're still going to be getting articles about Charlie Kirk, because I think that's just going to dominate the discourse for a while, just because of who he was and how the politically in many countries right now, tensions I think are tight on both sides. Like I said, a lot of that has to do with the COVID lockdowns, economic turmoil, people feeling like the system isn't working for them, etc. So it's very weird for me being like a far leftist and seeing all these people come out and being like, oh, I'm a far leftist. But I think for a lot of them, they're far leftist because they're mad at the system. If I were to give you like my idealized utopian idea of what I want, like I am so far to the left and anti-authoritarian, most people just don't sit in that corner, whether they claim to be in that corner or not. Like I basically think I hold the position you can do whatever you want, as long as you're not imposing your will on others against their own will. That shows up even in my political compass test. It puts me all the way down, all the way off to the left. I only have 5 rules. Don't murder, don't rape, don't molest children, animals, or dead bodies, don't assault, no assault, battery, abuse, no violence kind of thing. And then, kind of the misdemeanor because, circumstances, people work things out, people give things back, it's forgivable and there's just varying levels. Don't steal people's stuff. Don't do that. Now, I don't necessarily feel that way towards corporations. When I used to say, don't steal private property, but that alluded to some people that I was for private property in the sense of like companies withholding resources from people and gatekeeping them. No, I mean, I don't know why they gatekeep the resources. I don't. So, I mean, like, there are instances where I can totally see stealing from a company justifiable, like more ethical and moral than the company bogarting them for the purpose of making a profit. Really, like, seriously, sex, drugs, rock and roll, no king, no country, no gods, no rulers, no leaders. I'm an anarchist. Okay. Anyway, but this a lot of people are coming to my little corner of the political compass because they're angry that the system isn't working, just the same as on the right people are going to the far right corner because they're angry as well. But the social political climate is rife with tension, and being who Charlie Kirk was and everything that's going on, of course, this is just going to be a big deal that won't shut up for a while. And like I said, if you were a giant fan of his or a family member, it totally makes sense that this would dominate your dialogue for a while. It totally makes sense. But for the rest of America, for the rest of the world, it's like, well, you shouldn't kill anybody, but there are things, there are much bigger issues we need to be discussing. But we're gonna why Charlie Kirk's death hits the Trump White House so hard. We're gonna do that. You want to learn about Tampax?
This textured grip.
I can't do anything about the ad. I can't do anything about it.
For more hygienic disposal, Tampax.
And what sucks is they're getting free airtime that they're not paying me for. That's loud. Okay, that's just a slideshow. Okay, I'm going to read it. I'm not going to use the... President Trump was meeting with architects about plans for the White House ballroom when staff interrupted to inform him that Charlie Kirk, the prominent conservative activist, had been killed. I didn't know what they meant. I said, "What do you mean dead?" Trump recounted Friday, 2 days after the shooting. And there were cameras around. There's live footage of this. That is not what happened. He was asked about how are you holding up with Charlie Kirk's death, and Trump was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine. Hey, look at this ballroom we're building. Like it's really wild. Like that is Whether you support Trump or not, it should be understood that there is definitely narcissistic type character, like personality traits that Trump has. He seems to be extraordinarily fixated on himself. Charlie Kirk was shot. They thought he was dead because it was so horrific. Okay. The president's shock at the news reflected the widespread feelings at the White House in the aftermath of Kirk's death. Shock, anger, and disbelief that someone many considered a personal friend had been shot during an appearance at Utah Valley University. I don't know what kind of person you have to be to have Charlie Kirk as a friend. I would not want him anywhere near me. I would consider him to be dangerous to my well-being, considering, he had the standpoint of wanting to stone to death homosexuals. He wanted homosexuals to be stoned to death. That doesn't mean that I advocate for, his murder. I don't, again, I don't advocate for violence. I don't even believe in the death penalty. I literally, my position on violence is don't do it unless it's a self-defense. But being that his position is, we should stone to death gay people, like his position on LGBTQ people in general was made him a very horrifying person. Like, I would not want to be in the same room with him. I would not want to sit down and talk to him. I would not want to be friends with him. I would not want him anywhere near me. Just as a general, based on his own positions that he has articulated, seemingly to be a threat to me and people like me and our well-being. Like, I would not want... No. I would not want to be in the same room with him. I would not want to hang out with him. I would not want to be around him. Like, basically the position is... And I was talking to someone I know about this. They left a comment. I struggled to figure out what they were trying to articulate. They didn't articulate it very well. Lothier Mordred, Josh, he didn't articulate it very well. But basically it's like, look, when the position is you need to die, and my position is I want equal rights, I don't know that there's much middle ground. I don't know that there's much reaching across the table. I don't know that there's much of a compromise that can be met there when one person's position is you should die and the other person's position is not only do I think I should not die, but I want equal rights. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like me. You can absolutely be a homophobic prick if that's what you... if that's what you are, but you should tolerate people even if you don't like them. Like, I have to tolerate Christians. I don't think we should, go around the country banning Christians and, forced secularism, dogmatic atheism. I don't support that. I think, like, again, do whatever you want as long as you're not imposing it on other people against their own will. That's where I would draw the line, is don't show up at my house at 5 a.m. to talk to me about the word of Jesus Christ. I know about the word of Jesus Christ. I'm not interested. Keep your religion to yourself. I tolerate. I don't like Christianity. I don't like that religion. I don't like organized religion in general. I'm an atheist, and but I tolerate religious people all the time. That's how this is supposed to go. But like, if there was a forced secularist, far leftists that wanted to force dogmatically forced secularism, forced atheism upon the nation, I would not agree with it. That's a horrible thing to do. That's imposing your will on others against their own will. That's an authoritarian leftist position. I'm not an authoritarian leftist. I'm a liberal, anti-authoritarian leftist. But yeah, so we all have to tolerate people in society that we don't agree with, that we don't like, and maybe we think are a little icky. That doesn't mean that just because we tolerate them and we find them icky, that doesn't mean that we should be taking away their rights. Their civil rights, liberties, and freedoms. No. I'm fully egalitarian, no. Staffers and officials close to the administration, including Vice President Vance, have publicly recounted how they got to know Kirk and how he impacted them personally and politically, and in a sign of how closely intertwined the Turning Point USA founder was with Trump and his orbit, the White House has played a central role in providing updates after Kirk's death. It was the president who announced Kirk had died. Vance flew to Utah to transport Kirk's casket to Air Force Two. Trump broke the news that the suspected shooter was in custody. Oh, he did a lot more than that. He was his divisive, fan the flames of hate, let's try to create civil war part 2. He is not an effective, Trump is not an effective leader. He's not a good leader. And this is your system, y'all. And when somebody who's an anti-capitalist has to explain capitalism to a capitalist, or when somebody who's outside the framework of normal democracy discourse has to explain how your system works, I think that's bad. He's not an effective leader. Okay, he's not. Again, if we were in a healthy society, a healthy democracy, or constitutional republic, I don't want to debate that. It's we all know that. You hold an individual accountable for their individual actions. You don't say hey everybody, this guy who, did this to so and so is part of a golf club, so everybody who's a member of that golf club across the entire United States run to their house, burn their house down, kill their children, and hang them from trees. You don't do that. That is not good leadership skills. It's not. You know who I do think was a good leader was Queen Elizabeth I. Actually, Queen Elizabeth I. This is amazing. When England went to war with Spain, she released the prisoners of England because she believed, even though that they had committed crimes, that it was still their country and they had the right to fight for it too. That is good leadership skills. How Trump handled that. The radical left, violent, blah, 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 blah. That just fans the flames of division and hate. Not good leadership. Not good leadership. He should have been talking about the person who did it. Hold the person who did it accountable. Talk badly and crazy about this particular individual. Please, be sane, be rational, but I think that's asking too much at this point. Nobody's being sane and rational. And he has said his plans to attend Kirk's funeral and posthumously honor him. harmoniously. Sorry, I don't know why I thought that said honor him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Charlie was much a part of this family and maybe the highest profile MAGA person outside of those that were working there. White House Chief Staff Susie Wiles said Thursday on the Scott Jennings radio show. So I think it shook everybody to their core, and for many of us, it brought back the memories of last July 13th in Butler when the president, she added, referencing the assassination attempt that left Trump bloodied at the 2024 campaign rally in Pennsylvania. And there's a lot behind that story that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And once they found out that kid was basically far right, they just stopped. This is about today's articles. It's just me going through articles. This particular article is more stuff about Charlie Kirk. I said at the beginning of before doing before even reading this, we're gonna see a lot of articles about Charlie Kirk for a while. He's gonna dominate the discourse for quite a while. Given the current social political climate, I think that's what we should expect to see. I mean, I don't think under normal circumstances we would, but given the current climate, we are. So it's going to be annoying for a while because there's and I've got plenty of articles to go through. A lot of the other articles have to do with much more important things. Where was I? White House staff who spoke with The Hill following the shooting said the mood inside the building was somber and there was a sense of shock among many officials. Many in the building, particularly younger staff members, had gotten into politics and the MAGA movement at the time when Kirk was a rising voice and many had met him personally. Most in Trump's orbit come to know Kirk, 31, through his work building Turning Point USA into a grassroots powerhouse that launched chapters on hundreds of college campuses. Kirk's work organizing, fundraising, and registering young people to vote helped lay the foundation for the GOP's gains with young voters and young men in particular in 2024 election. See, why couldn't you organize people to vote without fanning, promoting hate and vitriol towards people you don't like? Why couldn't it be well, I don't really agree with LGBTQ people, but you don't have to sit there and say I think we should stone them to death. The president was a regular speaker at Turning Point events in recent years. Kirk was a staunch Trump supporter, no shit, even after his 2020 election defeat, echoing the baseless claims of voter fraud that Trump was pushing in the wake of his loss. RFK Jr. formally endorsed Trump in the 2024 race at a Turning Point event in Arizona. Kirk was an early advocate of Vance, both as a Senate candidate in 2022 and later as a potential running mate for Trump, and the commentator was spotted at the White House on multiple occasions during Trump's second term. One of the things about RFK Jr., I have to say this, is being somebody who has participated with the Don't Punish Pain group, the Doctor-Patient Forum group. One of the goals was to get back to a place where chronic pain patients could have access again to their opioid medications. And I completely understand, and I think it's completely valid to feel some type of way about Purdue Pharma for their corrupt advertising campaign of a highly addictive substance. I mean, I don't think opiates are something that should be prescribed to you unless you absolutely need them, which getting people addicted to an opioid medication, if you remove the profit incentive, you don't really have any incentive to get people addicted to a drug like that from a medical perspective, because you're not going to be making money. There's no profit to be had. So if we had like universal health care and it wasn't profit incentive, the only reason left that you would give somebody an opioid is if they truly needed it for medical purposes. One of the reasons I champion for that is I, as a chronic pain patient, look, I don't just have like this. This is what pissed me off about Vosh. He said, "Oh, they're just complaining about a little bit of pain." Little bit of pain. And the thing is like, there are some conditions that, yeah, okay, maybe they were prescribed an opioid medication like hydrocodone or tramadol, and they shouldn't have been, because they had like a very mild chronic pain. Like, there's the thing is you could say something like, even constant 310 make people go crazy. You could even, the thing is like, you could look at somebody with carpal tunnel, which is a very, very common chronic pain condition. And the thing is, most people with carpal tunnel, they take an NSAID, like prescription strength ibuprofen, 500 milligrams, or meloxicam 15 milligrams, or some Voltaren, put a wrist brace on, take some acetaminophen, and they're good. You look at the level of functionality is really important when you look at chronic pain. Like, if you have a really high level of functionality and you don't need pain relief, and you can function, that's important in making that kind of decision. But the thing is there are variations of stuff like even carpal tunnel, where it gets so severe that the nerve damage from fingertip to elbow, you are in pretty severe pain. There's mild cases of arthritis and there's severe cases of arthritis. These things tend to be a spectrum. It depends on how bad it is. For my particular condition, not everyone ends up like me with NTOS. I have an entire neural network that's compromised. I have nerve damage, nerve shrinkage, nerve death. I have atrophy, which is where your muscles are just gone. Contractures, which lead to atrophy. It's basically a muscle spasm that's just gone out of control, like muscles hard as a rock. Because it's what happens is the muscle isn't receiving any information from the nerve, so it just kind of tenses up because and then withers away and dies. And then I've got muscle spasms, and this occurs in my fingers, hand, arm, shoulder, chest, neck, upper and mid back. And believe me, that is a lot of pain. That is not a little bit of pain. Like most people, they get a hydrocodone prescription from the dentist when they get a tooth drilled on. That's one nerve. That is a sensory nerve. Okay? I've got an entire neural network from nerve roots or nerve trunks. What nerve trunks or nerve roots do is they branch off and they become sensory nerves. They become motor nerves. They become all the nerves that do everything that they do for my entire upper right half of my extremity. So it's very painful. It is extraordinarily painful. It makes it very, very difficult to function. And it's not just pain that keeps, I should be clear, it's not just pain that keeps me from functioning. Missing muscle tissue and having nerve shrinkage and nerves that are dead and nerves that are damaged and repeated nerve compression literally is just debilitating. Like, my arm just physically does not move the way it's supposed to. My neck doesn't move the way it's supposed to. My scapula, which is your shoulder blade, my scapula sits down here and off to the right. But by the time I had my decompression surgery, I had a disability score of 98, meaning the upper right extremity of my body was 98% paralyzed. And because I had reached that level of damage by the time I had my decompression surgery, a lot of that atrophy and nerve damage could not be undone. That shit is permanent. So after I had the surgery, my disability score dropped from 98 to 73. That means, and I plateaued in my recovery, 2-year recovery time. 2 years of recovery after that surgery, I plateaued at a disability score of 73. So I am basically 75%, 3/4 permanently disabled in my upper right extremity of my body. Range of motion is shot. Out of 180 degrees, the worst I get is only 40. The mid-range is 60, and the best I get is 90, depending on the direction that's moving. So even the direction that I get the best range of motion out of, I'm only getting half of what it's supposed to be. And that's the best. Anyway, I started to feel like the doctor-patient forum was a right-wing grift. Because, for one, a lot of them in the group were libertarian. I didn't really care that they were libertarian. I don't care. The point was, basically, chronic pain patient activism. Give us our functionality back. Give us our quality of life back. You're talking about levels of pain. People who are bedbound that have pain that you cannot imagine. We live and breathe it every day. You get exhausted, you get tired, you can't move, you're struggling to function. Give us our pain meds back. That the cause is what was important to me. But for some reason, it was going around in that group that we should vote and support RFK Jr. When he put his bid in for presidential candidacy. And then, found out that he was going to work with Trump. And the thing is I kept trying to figure out why these people wanted RFK Jr. so bad. So I watched hours and hours and hours and hours of interviews, reading articles about him, looking at interviews about him, and just as much as I could trying to figure out why on earth do they want all these chronic pain patients who are desperate for pain relief? We're talking about cancer patients. We are talking about people who have had 3 brain surgeries in 1 week that are just being sent home with Tylenol. I don't think any sane, rational person would be like, yeah, let's do that. Let's just have people, suffer. Even the World Health Organization it specifically says chronic pain patients having access to opioid medications to manage their pain is a basic human right. Okay? The World Health Organization says that about opioids. It even breaks it down into category. Acute pain is your lesser opiate. Opioids like hydrocodone, tramadol. I'm not a journalist. So that's for your acute pain, and then your more chronic pain conditions like what I have, that would be your time released morphine. You have your Percocets, your OxyContin, and then end of life care would be your stronger, higher end of the spectrum opioids, things like fentanyl, Dilaudid, hydromorphine. But that's what it says at the World Health Organization. And I'm trying to figure out, though, why all these chronic, why the doctor-patient forum is rallying all these chronic pain patients up that they should support RFK Jr. And I went through all this stuff, and I could not understand it, because I walked away going, I even tried to tell them, you guys, RFK Jr., I don't know why you think RFK Jr. is going to support us getting our pain medications back. I don't know why you think that. Because every interview that I've seen with him, like going through all this stuff of RFK Jr., before this regime came into office even, what I took away from it was, if it's a pill, he hates it. He does not like Western medicine at all. He hates SSRIs, SNRIs, tricyclics, antipsychotic, benzodiazepines, amphetamine-based medication for ADHD patients. I mean, he does not like a very large amount of pretty much any kind of Western medication, especially if it's a pill. He does not like them. He is especially against anything that is a controlled narcotic that is used in the medical world for medications. He does not like them. He does not like vaccines. And it's like, why on earth do you, if he hates benzodiazepines for the reason that he has, if he hates amphetamine medications for ADHD patients for the reasons that he's given, and SSRIs and SNRIs and tricyclics and antipsychotics, which you do build chemical dependency to, which again was one of the reasons why he didn't like them. Why on earth would he allow chronic pain patients to have access to their opioid medications back? And then it occurs to me, I think they're encouraging all these chronic pain patients, keep in mind, who are very, very desperate for pain relief. So they're being rallied by this, but I think the only reason the head sponsor, the head person of the doctor-patient forum, Claudia Morandi, who is a registered Republican, was championing for RFK Jr. was simply because he was perceived as moderately on the right, but, coming to office, he is not moderately on the right. He is very far right. But it seemed to me like she was only doing that because of, the little letter next to his name. And I don't think that anybody was paying attention to anything that he was saying. Because if they had, there was one other person who worked with Dr. Patient Forum who did agree with me, Carrie. And if she sees this, shout out to her. She's a libertarian, and she agreed with me because she did the research too, and she came to understand the same thing I did. RFK Jr. is basically a far-right, holistic, alternative medicine guy, which is one of the problems that chronic pain patients were facing, is they took away our opioids and started saying, do yoga, do meditation, do chiropractics, do acupuncture, or spend thousands upon thousands of dollars that you don't have for pain management injections, and or go to physical therapy like every single day for the rest of your life. I mean, it's ridiculous. And it's like, can we go back to like just seeing my doctor and then getting a 6-month supply of like a pain med, because like if anyone wants to like please do not ask me about all these different things to try, because you may think I haven't heard of it. You may think that I have not tried it or done it. I have been dealing with this since 2017. I have been exposed and tried many different alternatives to pain management that are not opioid based, and there's issues all around. Okay, like for example, gabapentinoids give me mania and psychosis. I can't take them. I had an epidural. I ended up in the hospital with the heart rate of only 40 beats per minute and blood pressure of like 80/70. It almost killed me. The steroid epidural almost killed me. So I can't have steroids. Apparently, that's a very, very rare allergy that only affects like 1% of the overall population. Trigger point injections, $5,000 for 4 hours of pain relief. Or nerve blocks is the same thing. Don't get me wrong, though. Those trigger point injections and nerve blocks, those 4 hours are the best pain relief I've ever had. It's almost like I'd never had NTOS in my life. However, you're not even supposed to get trigger point injections and nerve blocks every week, let alone pay $5,000. Like, be able to pay $5,000 when you're disabled and you can't even work. Like, where are you going to get that money from? And insurance companies don't like to cover that stuff either. And the $5,000, that was with insurance, and the insurance I had at the time did cover it. In 6 months of pain management therapy, it cost me more money than my decompression surgery, where I used to be able to just go to my doctor. She knew, you've got an entire neural network compromised and your arm is shrinking. My arm is literally shrunk in size. They used to prescribe me tramadol, hydrocodone and stuff, and it wasn't an issue. They'd give me 30 pills and I'd make it last between 6 to sometimes 10 months. So they knew I wasn't abusing these. She had no problem, but then the CDC guidelines kick in, and suddenly, and every state handles this different. Some states it's a lot easier to find a doctor that'll still prescribe, but there's very strict things that they have to follow, like random pill counts, random UAs, and so on and so forth. But suddenly they just stopped, and back when I got the opioid medications, that only cost me, for a bottle of opioid medications, it only cost me $20 without insurance. And that was taken from me. And now, I've tried hitting it with 2 different muscle relaxers, thousands of milligrams of acetaminophen, and NSAIDs, and I ended up waking up in the morning throwing up stomach acid, blood, and bile. And then my left eye started twitching like this all the time, and I would wake up with the taste of urine in my mouth, which is called urea breath. And urea breath is a sign of renal failure. So I'm having signs of liver failure, renal failure, my stomach lining being eaten away by the NSAIDs, and possibly developing ulcers that have to be removed by surgeries. And I go into the doctor and I'm like, I need pain relief. I'm having, flare-ups that are so bad. I'm literally getting dizzy. I'm becoming disoriented. And when the doctor asked me how much I was taking 6,000 milligrams of acetaminophen a day trying to get the pain under control. And she goes, "Oh my God, that's going to destroy your liver and kill you." And I was like, "Well, what else can I do?" And she goes, "Well, that's true. You're doing everything you can." And to me, that's sick. I'm basically being told it's better that you're killing yourself in a very long, slow, agonizing death where your internal organs are shutting down, as long as you do not have a chemical dependency to an opioid that isn't destroying your internal organs. And people bring up the overdose thing. It's like, look, if you get prescribed an opioid medication, the only way you're going to overdose is literally taking too many of your pills. If you take them as prescribed, you're not going to overdose. You'll be fine. And I was showing responsibility when they did prescribe them to me. Like I said, 30 pills and making them last 6 to 10 months. I would take them responsibly. I only took them if I had to get something done and I needed the pain relief so I could get it done because I was required to, or if I had a really bad flare up and it was causing me to become disoriented and stuff. I did not pop them like Tic Tacs. I did not take them every day. I used them responsibly. And yeah, that was taken from me. And so they were saying like, oh, well, it's better that even though the opioids wouldn't damage your liver in 3 different ways, destroy your kidneys, eat away your stomach lining, give you ulcers that would have to be removed with surgery, possibly even have esophageal rupture, which is life-threatening. You rip a hole in your esophagus and it starts spilling out the blood, stomach acid, and bile, and then your organs start melting. The opioids don't cause any of that. Like the big side effect of opioids is like constipation. It's like, okay, well, you can solve that with stool softeners and laxatives. Not a big deal. And when you're only taking them when you like during a flare up, or you're making 30 pills last 6 to 10 months, you don't get the constipation because you're not taking them often, and you're not taking it every day to get the constipation. So like a lot of chronic pain patients are finding themselves in this predicament, and I just felt like if you're telling a bunch of people who are very, very, very desperate to get their quality of life and functionality back, I mean, these people are very desperate for pain relief, and if you're in a lot of pain, you understand the desperation to get the pain under control. It's more than just uncomfortable. It's debilitating, and she was just sitting there telling everyone, "Oh, vote, support RFK Jr." And there was no reason that, like, I tried explaining too, like, I'm not telling you not to support RFK Jr. and that he won't give you our opioids back because he's right wing and I'm a left winger. That's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because if you pay attention to the shit that he says, there is no reason to believe he will do that. And like, as soon as this administration stepped into office, Claudia Morandi, she set up a petition to try to talk to RFK Jr. Not all chronic pains are the same. You can't just... Yeah, exactly. I think they left. That's too bad. I wish I could heart this comment. How do I heart? It won't let me heart. And I think they left. But yeah, exactly. This person in the comments, they said not all chronic pains are the same, and you can't just do physical therapy. Physical therapy is only proven to work effectively against arthritis because it brings back range of motion, but it isn't a guarantee. Yeah, right. I mean, mostly physical therapy was used for, like, if you got in a car accident or you broke your leg or something and it was healing and you go to physical therapy, so start getting you in the habit of, like, walking and doing stuff again. It is not meant when you have compression of a bundle of nerve trunks and your main artery and veins in your chest. That's where my nerves are compressed, is up here. This is where the brachial plexus is. Thoracic outlet, that's the name of the condition. Thoracic outlet syndrome. This is the thoracic outlet right here. It's a very itty-bitty space between the first rib and the collarbone. And you have 5 nerve roots that go through there, as well as veins and your main artery. And all of it was being compressed, and my nerves had like a ton of scar tissue all over them that had to be removed. But I couldn't think of any reason why anyone like why the chronic pain community should endorse RFK. Not because he was right wing. I wasn't saying that because he was right wing. I was saying that because I listened to his speeches, and he hates these things. This dude is not going to give you the opioids back. He does not like opioids. He thinks, he's subscribed to the idea that the only reason the pharmaceutical companies are giving it to you is because it's addictive and they want to make money. And completely ignores the medicinal value of opioids that we have been the medicinal value of which we've been using them for millennia. Like, literally, opioids are the oldest prescribed medication on the planet. And we don't just use them for pain. We sell them over the counter. Imodium, opium, Imodium, the anti-diarrhea medication, that's made from opiates. That's an opiate. Imodium is a fucking opiate. Narcan, naloxone, that's an opiate. Suboxone, what they use to treat, to give to people who are addicted and want to stop, that's an opiate. It's not an opioid. Suboxone, well, it is an opioid, but it's not like synthetic. Suboxone's an opiate. It comes from the poppy. RFK doesn't support any of it. I don't understand. The only thing I can come up with is the only reason why Claudia wanted to endorse RFK was because he had an R next to his name. Because if you listen to what he said, there's no way this guy was going to give us our pain meds back. No way. But the relationship between Trump's team and Kirk grew in recent years to become more than a political alliance. Donald Trump Jr. said to me, he's sort of like a son to you, the president said Friday on Fox and Friends. Kirk first entered President Trump's circle through friendship with his eldest son. The two met during 2016 campaign and became close professionally. And professionally, Donald Trump Jr. described Kirk as a little brother in the wake of his death. Kirk shared a similarly close relationship with Vance, who canceled a planned appearance in New York City to mark the anniversary of September 11th attacks, to instead fly to Utah and be with Kirk's family and friends. Vance then flew with his casket to Arizona. Vance has done a lot of not being a vice president and just kind of going around the country, taking trips and vacations, to my understanding. In a lengthy tribute on the social platform X, I don't even go on X anymore. I refuse. Vance recounted how he first connected with Kirk after a Fox News appearance in 2017. Vance credited Kirk with introducing him to Trump Jr. And I'm looking at this, I'm thinking this is just like a sort of memorial piece. This is just a memorial piece. I'm done with it. I'm moving on to the next one. And that's fine. I mean, I'm not shocked. No one should be shocked then. They're going to put out a memorial piece. No one should be shocked by that. From the Republican right-wing party. Now, the Republicans that are pro-democracy, if they're engaging in the memorial piece, that's kind of weird. But, again, we're seeing progressives and stuff being all memorial-ish about it. And I mean, again, it makes sense if you were a fan. It makes sense if you're a family member. But for a lot of people, it's like, I don't know the fucking dude. Nothing personal, just... This one, BBC News. U.S. farmers are being squeezed, and it's testing their deep loyalty to Trump. This is something that I have been, before I started doing this live stream thing about news articles, I post news articles on my Facebook every day, and this was one of the big topics that I'm actually deeply concerned about. I saw on somebody's TikTok, there was a farmer saying, stop telling me it's what I voted for, I could go bankrupt, and this is bad, and it's like, dude, I agree. Like, I don't want this to happen to farmers. And I don't want farmers to go bankrupt. Unfortunately, it's like, well, there's not much we can do. And I know it sucks to hear that, but, well, this is what you voted for, but it's like, it's kind of like, this is what you voted for, so because this is what you voted for, there's not much we can do. I absolutely respect farmers. I understand their vital importance to our society. Without them, it's not just them going bankrupt. We're talking about food outages and food shortages, which we are projected to see. And I think it's important to stand in solidarity with the farmers. They're also struggling to get help because of all these mass raids on Hispanic people. And I feel for the farmers. I do. Like, I don't want them to go bankrupt. I don't want them to burn their fields. I don't want them to be short-staffed. But there's a lot of leftists and a lot of people, like, there's not much we can do. It's like we saw this coming. We knew that this administration, this regime, was going to be bad. He did this his first term as presidency. He screwed over the farmers. He didn't do it as bad as he's doing it this time. But, like, no, I mean, farmers, what do you want us to do? What do you want us to do? I'm not against subsidiaries towards farmers. I'm against subsidiaries towards, like, large conglomerate corporations that have more money than God. It's like, why does a person who has more money than God need subsidiaries, need, basically socialism from the government, and not the person who's making food for our society, putting food like produce on our table? Or the person who's disabled or elderly, who's sitting on the street and homeless because they can't work anymore. Like, I am for those things. I want to support local farmers. Like, there's a local grocery chain that I shop at, and one of the reasons why I go to that grocery chain is because the beef comes from local cattle ranchers, local beef farmers. Their produce comes from local farmers. And they also support local businesses. Like, there's a roastery here in Kansas City, and the grocery store I go to sells their coffee beans. Like, you can get bulk coffee beans from Kansas City's roastery, as well as a local roastery, not from Kansas City, but somewhere, I think, in Seattle or Michigan or something like that. They... And they're starting to... that grocery chain is in trouble. It's starting to shut down because of the things that Trump is doing. I go shopping at the farmers market, which is local farmers, like local produce growers. They show up. It's just like I don't know how to explain it. It's just basically a roof that's held up by some pillars, and it's got parking lot. The farmers, they just back in with their trucks, open the back of their trucks, and they can sell their corn, potatoes, carrots, everything. You walk around, and there was a bee harvester that used to go there that would he would sell honeycombs and wax and honey, and it was awesome. But this is a massive problem because we could be looking at food shortages, food outages, and also massively hurts our economy. So no, I don't want this to happen to farmers, but what are we supposed to do? You already done put the guy in fucking office that did this to you. I don't like it either. I don't want to see nobody should want to be seeing food shortages and food outages. And the thing is that what local farmers can't provide for us, we could have gotten it from other countries, have it imported. China was a big importer of, or importer to us of garlic, eggs, onions, and other forms of produce, but we can't get that from them now because of Trump's stupid tariff war, his trade war shit. So if local farmers can't provide these things for us, we are fucked. Fucked. Coast to coast, north to south, fucked. Not enough food to go around. We are fucked. So this has been a very, very big topic that is very, very important to me, and I wish more and more people were interested in it and knew more about it. Anyway, so I was hoping this one wouldn't be as long as the other one. I don't know how to make short videos anymore. I just don't. I've gotten more detailed, and I think that's a result of people going me in my comment section for so long. I feel like if I'm not thoroughly detailed enough, people will easily misconstrue things, so I have to explain everything, like, all the way into the minutia. Otherwise, somebody will in the comment section will be like, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, oh my God, can you just know things, like understand, you know what I'm talking about. So I think that's what happened, but I don't know. I can't make short shit anymore. The 65-year-old has worked the fields since he was a teenager. He now owns a grain and a hog farm near Moscow, Iowa, but he's unsure about its prospects. I'm in a little bit of worried place, says Maxwell, who wears a baseball cap bearing the logo of a corn company. He is concerned that American farmers aren't able to sell their crops to international markets in the way they could in previous years, in part because of the fallout from President Trump's tariffs. Also, another thing that's hurt American farmers, they would get money from the USAID. So, like, food that we would donate to these countries that would have food scarcity, the government would buy that from American farmers, which gave them a source of guaranteed revenue. You should really look up the history of, like, soy and corn, heavily subsidized by the government to make it so that farming is a prosperous thing to do to feed Americans, and not just Americans, the world, but not anymore because they got rid of USAID, which has impacted farmers. Our yields, crops, and weather are pretty good, but our interest from markets right now is on a low, he says. It's going to put stress on some farmers. His fears are not unique. U.S. agricultural groups warn that American farmers are facing widespread difficulty this year, mostly due to economic tensions with China. Since April, the two countries have been locked in a trade war, causing a sharp fall in the number of Chinese orders for American crops. A war that was started by Trump. He started this. We had decent relationships, and then Trump stepped in the office, and now nobody wants anything to do with us. We're isolated. We're fucked. American farmers are wounded as a result. Economists say the number of small businesses bankruptcies filed by farmers has reached a 5-year high, according to data compiled by Bloomberg in July. Yeah. And here in Kansas, farmers have had to burn their crops because if they don't, they'll go to waste because of all this shit that the regime is doing. So, yeah, yay. With all this economic pain, rural areas could well have turned against Trump, but that doesn't seem to be happening. Cool. Rural Americans were one of the president's most loyal voting blocs in last year's election when he won the group by 40 percentage points over Kamala Harris, beating his own margins in 2020 and 2016, according to Pew Research analysis. Polling experts say that in the countryside, he is still broadly popular. Yeah. You're never going to learn your lesson. And the thing that I love that it comes from the BBC is, like, because it's British, I feel like they don't have much of an incentive to be, like, biased towards anything because they're like, why do we care? It's happening in America. Like, why do we need to slant or anything? Like, hey, British people, this is what's happening in America. I'll go and laugh at them because they're all stupid. Mr. Maxwell says he is sticking with Trump despite his own financial worries. Our president told us it was going to take time to get all these tariffs in place. Yeah, see, this is where you should listen to people who know, like, experts, not loyalists, but experts. Because even conservative, even libertarian economists were looking at this going like, nope. It's unbelievable. This is dogmatic. This is dogmatic. You know, this is like blind faith. You know, like the barn is burning down around him. Like, well, I'm not gonna worry about it. Trump said and promised things. When has any politician done everything that they have said that they've promised to do? None of them do that. Not a single one. Ugh. I am going to be patient. I believe in our president. Yeah, I know you do. To your own detriment. So why do so many farmers and other rural Americans broadly continue to back Trump, even while feeling an economic squeeze that is driven in part by tariffs, the president's signature policy? Because they're stuck in blind faith, the cult of personality kind of thing. It's bad. It's really bad. If you want a window into rural America, the Iowa State Fair is a good place to start. The agricultural show attracts more than 1 million visitors over 10 days. I think a lot of it, too, is just, we've always voted Republican, you know, that's what we do. We vote Republican, yeah. There is candy, floss, deep fried hot dogs on a stick. I'm going to tell you about conies, that's funny. Known as corn dogs. You know this is published in British. They batter up a hot dog. You guys, they batter up a hot dog and then they deep fat fry it. And eat it on a stick. They call it a corn dog. Can you believe that? But when the BBC visited last month, there was another topic of conversation: tariffs. A lot of people say he's just using tariffs as a bargaining chip, as a bluff. Yeah, well, the other countries don't really see it that way, and they're not playing his game. They're like, okay, we're going to go somewhere else. And honestly, like, China's become a massive exporter to a lot of countries. So what Trump is doing with China, It's almost like he thinks that we're still like in the 1930s to the 1980s, where America is this big behemoth on the world stage and has like this large amount of resources that most places don't. And the fact of the matter is like China rose up to actually be able to compete with us on exported goods and services. Like, now they're doing more than us because we cut ourselves off from the world. And so, like, all these countries that we stopped putting exported goods to, we're like, that's fine. We'll just get it from China. We literally are handing American business, American product and work and everything on a silver platter to China by telling all these countries, like, no, we're not going to export goods to you anymore. They're basically like, well, that's fine. China will. China's probably loving this. Like, they are not affected. They're benefiting from this. They are benefiting from it. But I can say history proves that tariffs don't end well. In April, what he termed Liberation Day, Trump imposed sweeping tariffs on most of the world, including a 145% tariff on China. In response, China put a retaliatory 125% tariff on American goods, a blow to farmers in the American Midwest, sometimes known as the Corn Belt, many of whom sell crops to China. Not anymore. Last year, Chinese companies bought $12.7 billion worth of soybeans from America, mostly to feed their livestock. Somebody was saying to me, because of this, just watch, wait in the future. We're gonna be seeing like some kind of like massive advertising campaign. You know, like they did the whole like, soy boy, you lost your testosterone, you're a soy boy, blah 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 thing. And they're gonna flip that around, and you're gonna have RFK going on Joe Rogan going like, no, soy is actually really good for you, and stuff like that, because of the massive blow that this has taken to American farmers. So look out for that. If they start pushing soy really, really hard, like they do with like got milk and stuff like that, I saw it on too many tabs. I think they're right. I'm not agreeing with them just because they're leftists. See, this is what I mean. I have to clarify things because people get super fucking nitpicky and shit. And that's why things can't be short. I'm not agreeing with too many tabs just because they're probably on the left. I don't really know what their political position is, but that sounds pretty accurate to something that America will do. With you know, like, think about like American farmers being in a $12.7 billion deficit with all this soy laying around. So eventually you're going to like look for it, you know, RFK on Joe Rogan going like, oh, soy is really good for you. And like totally flip the script. And instead of going like, oh, like soy is destroying our testosterone and killing our sperm and making us emasculated and turning the frogs gay, they'll flip the script and be like, no, like we're coming to find new science that soy is really, really good for you. It promotes all this healthy stuff and full of antioxidants. You know, like eat it with your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and look out for it. And know that this is where it came from. If you see it, this is where it came from. 100% hands down guarantee. September is harvest season. The American Soybean Association, ASA, has warned that soybean orders from China are way below where they should be at this point in the year. Tariffs have fluctuated dramatically since they were introduced, and the uncertainty is proving tough for farmers, says Christopher Wolf, a professor of agricultural economics at Cornell University. China is just too big. When they buy things, it matters, and when they don't, it matters. Yep, they have become a formidable force on the world stage as far as trade and commerce goes. Yeah, G7 is falling apart, and Trump is exacerbating that. And BRICS is really picking up big momentum. And Trump is assisting with that. And I mean, you're not going to get help from Russia. Russia's part of BRICS. Russia's allied with China and North Korea. They've historically been a country that doesn't like the United States. I don't think they care. The cost of fertilizer has rocketed too, partly because of trade disputes with Canada, which has raised the cost of potash and salt imported from Canada by American farmers and used in fertilizer. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Fertilizer we get from other countries because we don't have the resources in the United States to make it. So we're fucked there too. John Tester, a former Democrat senator of Montana, who is a third-generation farmer, told the U.S. news station earlier this month, with all these tariffs the president put on, it's interrupted our supply chain, it's increased the cost of new equipment, and because of the trade and tariffs, a lot of customers have said to heck with the United States. The people who are new to agriculture, those young farmers who haven't saved money for times like this, they're going to be in trouble, and a lot of those folks are going to go broke. And if this continues, a lot of folks like me are going to go broke too. American farmers are already suffering from high levels of stress. They are more than three times more likely. There's too many mores in there. They are 3 times more likely than average to die by suicide. They need to remove this. According to a paper by a charity, the National Rural Health Association, which analyzed a period before Trump's presidency. In a letter to the White House, Caleb Ragland, president of the ASA, warned of a tipping point. U.S. soybean farmers are standing at a trade and financial precipice. Trump, our farmers are going to have a field day. Supporters of President Trump say that his tariffs will help American farmers in the long run by forcing countries like China to come to the negotiating table and agree new deals with the U.S. over agriculture. Yeah, they're not doing that. They're just started getting their soy from South America. They don't care. Oh, and China can grow their own soy. Like, this just doesn't make sense. It's not going to happen. China's even said it, like, okay, you can go fuck off, America. Like, that's fine. And they point to other ways this White House has helped farmers over the summer as part of Trump's tax and spend bill. His administration expanded federal subsidies for farmers by $60 billion and boosted funding for federal crop insurance. In his annual speech to Congress in March, Trump warned farmers of a little bit of an adjustment period following the tariffs, adding, "Our farmers are going to have a field day. To our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you." Sid Miller, commissioner of the Texas Department of Agriculture, is among those who have praised Trump for his vital support. "We finally have an administration that is prioritizing farmers and ranchers," he wrote in a statement earlier this year. "They advocate for farmers, challenge China, and ensure America's producers are receiving fair treatment." And it is possible the president's tariff strategy could eventually work, according to Michael Langmeyer, a professor of agricultural economics at Purdue University. But he also worries that uncertainty is inflicting long-term damage. Your trading partner doesn't know exactly what your position's going to be next year because it seems like we're changing the goalpost. That is a problem. Tariffs will make a... There's an old adage in American politics that say people vote with their pocketbooks and turn against politicians if they appear to harm their finances. Yet despite financial pressures, the rural Americans... This just sounds like propaganda. Oh, I know normally we should vote against somebody that's, completely having us go bankrupt, but, no, loyalty, and stuff. Yet, despite financial, the rural Americans we spoke to are firmly sticking with Trump. Experts say they haven't seen any evidence of meaningful change in support among rural voters since last year. I'm telling you, they're always going to vote Republican no matter what. It's what they do. It's their tradition. That's right-wing hierarchy, tradition. That's all part of the right. A survey by Pew last month found that 53% of rural Americans approved of the job Trump is doing, far higher than the 38% figure for the country as a whole. Though a survey by ActiVote earlier this month did find a small decline in Trump's approval among rural voters from 59% in August to 54% in September, analysts warn not to pay much attention to those shifts, however, because the number of rural voters included in those polls is so small. And of course, they don't want you. They want everything's hunky-dory. Don't look at the burning civilization that's crumbling to dust. The data I've seen suggests Trump is still heavily supported in rural communities, says Michael Shefford, a political science professor at the University of Michigan who focuses on rural politics. For some farmers at the state fair, the expectation is simple. They believe the U.S. president when he tells them the tariffs will help them in the long run. Basically, this is if they tell you to jump off a bridge, they would do it. We think the tariffs eventually will make us great again, says John Maxwell, a dairy farmer. We are giving China a lot, and previously we paid tariffs when we sold to them. Let's make it fair. What's good for the goose is good for the other goose. What? Okay, that doesn't make sense. Some may also hold on to hope that the president will bail farmers out. During Trump's first term, he gave farmers a $28 billion grant amid a tariff dispute with China. I don't know now that we're like, what how much debt has the United States been, like, fucking trillions of dollars now? Probably not. That deficit is too high. Let's go for $126 trillion deficit, you guys. For Nicholas Jacobs, a politics professor at Colby College and an author of Rule Voter, there's a deeper reason at play. It's easy for an outsider to ask, why the hell are you still with this guy? He says, but you have to understand that across America, the move towards Republicans long predates Donald Trump. Absolutely. It's tradition. Starting in the 1980s, he says rural Americans started to feel alienated and left behind while cities benefited from globalization and technological change. What he calls a rural identity formed based on a shared grievance and an opposition to urban liberals. The Republicans seemed like their neutral or natural champion, while he says the Democrats became the party of the elite technocrats, the well-educated, and the urban. That's something that Democrats need to change. We need to be more leftist. Some repeat that sentiment at the state fair. Joan Maxwell, a Jerry farmer from Davenport in Iowa, says that her area is too often viewed as flyover country. We are not looked at very positively for the most part from the media, she says. We've been called deplorables, uneducated, a reference to Hillary Clinton's description of half of Trump's supporters as a basket of deplorables. As Maxwell added, a lot of times they ignore us and make fun of us. Professor Shefford of Michigan University believes there's another factor. In his view, America has become so polarized with voters from both sides entrenched in their camps that many are willing to forgive much more than they would previously, as long as it's a policy implemented by their own side. That might very well be true. He calls this selective blame attribution. They might be really angry about some things that are happening, but they are reticent to blame Trump for them. This article is fucking long. I am losing my voice trying to read all this shit. Okay. Mr. Wolf has his own view on the best case scenario from here. What I hope happens is that Trump just declares victory and leaves it, tariffs alone. But he warns that even if the policy is dropped, the damage to American farmers could be long-term. Oh, yeah, there's a lot. This will take generations to fix the things that he broke. Due to the shakeup to supply chains, some Chinese firms are now buying their soybeans from Brazil rather than America. He says they may not quickly return. Many of the analysts we spoke to believe that rural Americans' support for Trump is not a blank cheek despite their current support. Mr. Sheffer points out to the Great Depression and rural Dust Bowl of the 1930s, which forced millions of farmers to migrate to American cities, causing a long-term realignment in politics. Though nobody expects it to get anywhere near that bad this time, the farm crisis of the 1980s also saw thousands of farms go under. Back at the state fair, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Okay. Look, reading all that took a lot fucking out of me. So I'm going to use the fucking digital voice for this one. This one happens to be like just 2-minute read.
Trump vows national emergency in Washington, D.C. over ICE dispute. U.S. President Trump returns to Washington after spending the weekend in New Jersey. Reuters, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Monday he would call a national emergency and federalize Washington, D.C. after Mayor Muriel Bowser said its police would not cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement. At issue is the provision of information on individuals living in, or entering, the United States illegally. Trump's threat adds to a move critics have seen as federal overreach, with more than 2,000 troops patrolling the city. The comments come after several thousand protesters hit the streets this month over Trump's August deployment of National Guard troops to re-establish law, order, and public safety, after calling crime a blight on the Capitol. Advertisement. In just a few weeks, the place is absolutely booming. For the first time in decades, virtually no crime, Trump said on Truth Social. Bowser's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Trump's post. Earlier he had put the Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control and sent federal law enforcement, including members of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, to police the streets. It is unclear when their mission will end. Trump blamed radical left Democrats for pressuring Bowser to inform the government about the non-cooperation with ICE, adding that if the police halted cooperation with ICE, crime would come roaring back. Advertisement. He added, to the people and businesses of Washington, D.C., don't worry, I am with you, and won't allow this to happen. I'll call a national emergency, and federalize, if necessary. Bowser, who has previously praised Trump's surge of federal law enforcement, bringing a sharp decline in crime, earlier signed an order for the city to coordinate with federal law enforcement. The National Guard serves as a militia answering to the governors of the 50 states, except when called into federal service. The D.C. National Guard reports directly to the president. Reporting by Gurzimran Kaur in Bengaluru, editing by Kim Cockhill and Clarence Fernandez. Solve the daily crossword.
Yay, police state. And to my understanding, the crime wasn't. I really doubt that. It's getting harder and harder to trust a lot of these, like CBS, I believe, has joined the team. Like, a lot of it's just becoming state-ran propaganda. So it's getting to a point where I'm going to have to pull up articles from other sources to get away from the propaganda, because this is not reporting all the truth of what happened down there. It's wild. This was fucked up. So this crazy woman, I think in Michigan, she reported a bunch of South Koreans as being illegal immigrants to ICE, and they were employed by Hyundai to come over and train American workers in the Hyundai assembly line on how to make the cars so we can manufacture them here, following the rules that Trump put in place so that we could have Hyundai cars built and manufactured here in the United States and sold here in the United States. And this woman, like, the only reason they were here temporarily and legally and in accordance with a deal that Hyundai, the company, made with the Trump regime, this woman, this crazy lunatic woman, who's running for a Republican seat, a local seat in that state, called ICE and had all the South Korean people that were there to train people to make the Hyundais arrested by ICE. And now South Korea is putting a thing out saying, like, hey, if you want to come back to South Korea, come back to South Korea, fuck America. And a lot of them are taking up on that because they don't want to be, disappeared into a black unmarked van by ICE and tortured or sent to some prison in another country, which is fucking insane that we're doing that. So, 3 minutes.
Trump concerned as Korean arrests could frighten investors. Trump voiced hopes that a raid on a South Korean company's worksite won't chill international investment. Anthony Wallace
already has.
President Donald Trump on Sunday said foreign workers sent to the United States are welcome and he doesn't want to frighten off investors, 10 days after hundreds of South Koreans were arrested at a worksite in Georgia. In a post on his Truth.
Yeah, you already done. What do you mean? Foreign workers are welcome here in the United States after all the fucking shit your ICE raids have peddled. You have gone to people's places of work and done raids. The ICE people have targeted legitimate American citizens. What are you talking about? I mean, this is like watching somebody saw their own foot off. And thinking, like, saying, I'm going to walk again. You're going to see, I'm going to walk better again. And then they sit down and start sawing their own foot off. And the person who did this is a MAGA, voter election denying person running for a Republican seat in Georgia. So it was one of Trump's people, one of his followers, part of his team and utilizing Trump's militarized Gestapo. The fuck? And Trump's like, oh, we want people to feel welcome here. You've terrorized tourists from Germany and Australia. The fuck you talking about, bro?
Social platform. The 79-year-old Republican wrote, I don't want to frighten off or disincentivize investment. Some
already did.
475 people, mostly South Korean nationals, were arrested at the construction site of an electric vehicle battery factory, operated by Hyundai LG, in the southeastern U.S. state of Georgia on September 4th. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, officials alleged South Koreans had overstayed their visas or held permits that didn't allow them to perform manual labor. The Georgia raid was the largest single-site operation conducted since Trump launched a sweeping immigration crackdown across the country. Though the United States decided against deportation, images of the workers being chained and handcuffed during the raid caused widespread alarm in South Korea. Seoul repatriated the workers on Friday. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung called the raid bewildering and warned Thursday that the raid could discourage future investment. In his post, Trump described the circumstances for temporarily allowing foreign experts into the U.S. to build extremely complex products. Chips, semiconductors, computers, ships, trains, and so many other products that we have to learn from others how to make, or, in many cases, relearn because we used to be great at it, but not anymore, Trump wrote. We welcome them, we welcome their employees, and we are willing to proudly say we will learn from them, and do even better than them at their own game, sometime in the not-too-distant future, Trump added. Korea's trade unions have called on Trump to issue an official apology. 2/slaw/JGC. 1. Homeowners insurance costs just hit a new high.
Damage is done. So, homeowners insurance is going up. The average single family homeowner is now paying almost $2,370 a year for property insurance, according to new data from ICE Mortgage Technology, up to 70% in the last 5.5 years. %90 are bracing for higher prices. The states, the biggest concern, Florida, Texas, and California. Outstripping broader inflation in recent years, and they are continuing to do so. They are up 4.9% in the first half of the year alone, and 11.3% from a year ago. Costs are rising the fastest in cities in California as the state's market adjusts to new regulations and the aftermath of January's devastating wildfires, as well as parts of North and South Carolina that experienced severe flooding last year. Good luck, everyone. Good luck. We're in hell, and I'm sorry. I know there was one that I did multiple articles from. It was this one of them. We covered that one yesterday, but it's part of this video. Okay. Yeah. Just use this one.
Worst kind of setup for the Fed. What Wall Street is saying about the central bank's next rate decision. Updated Monday, September 15th, 2025 at 1:03 a.m. CDT. 3 minutes read. Weak labor market data overshadowed a sticky inflation print last week, keeping investor expectations intact that the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates at its policy meeting on Wednesday.
So we read about this yesterday. This is an update from this morning about the Federal Reserve Bank and Trump wanting to meddle around in that, depreciating the value of the dollar as our fucking economy is collapsing and our deficit is insane. So we can give centibillionaires, like the top 1%, $6 trillion in tax breaks.
Government data released Thursday showed that consumer prices rose 0.4% in August from the previous month, an uptick from July's 0.2% increase. Meanwhile, separate data showed weekly jobless claims rising to 263,000, the highest in nearly 4 years, up from a revised 236,000 the prior week. The Fed weighs its dual mandate of full employment and price stability when deciding whether to change interest rates. Given the dynamic of a slowing jobs market coupled with sticky price increases, Wall Street strategists told Yahoo Finance that the Fed has a complicated decision ahead. It's the worst kind of setup for the Fed, Claudia Sam, New Century Advisors chief economist and former Federal Reserve Board economist, told Yahoo Finance. They will not be cutting because we have good news on inflation. They'll be cutting because we have bad news on employment. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell speaks during a press conference after the central bank's July meeting. The central bank is widely expected to cut.
The thing is, they got both. We're like negative 15% on jobs. So like the job market shot. Inflation is skyrocketing. It looks like the home buyers, they want to get out of homes and get into apartments, but apartments are already filling up because like people can't afford them. Like this is a disaster. It's both. It's all of it. A national deficit, the highest it's ever been in the entire history of anything. And depreciating the value of the dollar, and Trump trying to meddle in a private bank, the Federal Reserve Bank. I don't know.
Interest rates next week. Reuters / Jonathan Ernst / file photo. Reuters / Reuters. Sam expects the Federal Reserve to cut rates by 25 basis points during its two-day meeting this week. She noted, though, that inflation is still too firm. Other strategists agreed, inflation is still elevated. It's been elevated, and it's moving in the wrong direction right now, Colin Martin, fixed income strategist at Schwab Center for Financial Research, told Yahoo Finance. Sticky inflation may keep the Fed cautious after September, RSM chief economist Joe Bruce said. Yes, you're going to get your rate cut out there in trading land, Bruce told Yahoo Finance. But I have to tell you, the underlying tenor of the data doesn't suggest that it's a lock that you're going to get 3 rate cuts before the end of the year. Read more, how jobs, inflation, and the Fed are all related. As of Friday, investors were pricing in a 76% probability of 3 rate cuts this year, according to the CME FedWatch, as the labor market shows increasing cracks. Thursday's jobless claims data was the latest to underscore the slowdown. A sweeping jobs revision released earlier this week showed the U.S. employed 911,000 fewer people between April 2024 and March 2025 than originally reported. Still, the slowdown doesn't appear to be pushing the economy over a cliff. We're not getting this hard landing-like collapse in the job market, Economic Cycle Research Institute co-founder Lakshman A. Shuthan said. This could get rough at some point, but it's not yet. 1. Fed is on the verge of first 2025 cut. The question is whether it will keep going. Jennifer Schunberger, senior reporter. Monday, September 15, 2025 at 3 a.m. CDT, 5 minutes read. The Federal Reserve is widely expected this week to make its first interest rate cut of 2025, but the bigger question for investors is how many more cuts could be on the way as the central bank contends with a weak job market, sticky inflation, and mounting White House pressure. One clue will come in the form of the Fed's dot plot, a chart updated quarterly that shows each official's prediction about the direction of the central bank's benchmark interest rate. The last dot plot, released in June, revealed a consensus among Fed officials for 2 cuts this year amid uncertainties about how the Trump administration's policies on tariffs, immigration, and taxes would impact the economy. That first cut is expected this Wednesday, and most Fed watchers predict it will be a 0.25 percentage point reduction, marking the first easing of monetary policy since December. Read more, how the Fed rate decision affects your bank accounts, loans, credit cards, and investments. Will policymakers stick with predictions for one more cut in 2025 or get more aggressive amid new signs of labor market weakness? The Fed has 2 more meetings this year in late October and early December. The central bank's decision to keep its benchmark interest rate in the range of 4.25%-4.5% for much of 2025 has tested the patience of President Trump, who is trying to install White House economic advisor Stephen Miron as a Fed governor before Wednesday while removing existing Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Trump has been attacking Fed Chairman Jerome Powell for not cutting rates sooner, repeatedly referring to him as too late. Former Cleveland Fed President Loretta Mester said she is not convinced one rate cut or many cuts will take pressure off the Fed. The president has stated that he wants to get a majority of his people on the board and wants to bring down interest rates pretty aggressively, she said. He doesn't seem to care that much about monetary policy being independent and insulated from short-run political considerations. Read more. How much control does the president have over the Fed and interest rates? But she does not expect the central bank's first cut this week to be bigger than 25 basis points as policymakers weigh their dual responsibilities to keep prices stable and maximize employment. A smaller cut lessens the degree of restrictiveness, but it's still restrictive and puts downward pressure on the inflation part of the mandate, while also taking out some insurance on the labor side, Mester said.
Good luck to everyone out there, including, like, for myself. Like, I've got friends that are, they're not typically, like doomsday preppers or anything like that, but I know people who are stocking up on as much food as they can. It's not a bad idea. And the worst of it doesn't kick in until mid 2026 next year, mid next year. That then you're really gonna feel the brunt of this. It's gonna be more than just a little bit of pain. Fuck. Okay. From Politico. So I like getting these articles from different sources as I can, because left wing's interest, right? All anything, because it's good to get things from different perspectives, so you can make the most informed opinion or position that you possibly can. But like I said, when like which one just felt like Reuters, like this just felt like let's suck Trump's dick. Just I know, what was it? CBS is going to be joining that. It's basically, like, it's basically just going to turn into state-ran propaganda. It's going to get harder and harder to get, like, it'll be really easy to find the right-wing Trump bias base articles because he's attacking all the media companies, all the media vendors. It's going to be harder and harder and harder to find more accurate news reporting to what the truth is that, Trump doesn't want people to hear.
The House Republican risking GOP backlash to save Obamacare subsidies. The House Republican risking GOP backlash to save Obamacare subsidies. Among all the troublemaking members House Republican leaders have to deal with, Representative Jen Kiggans isn't on their list of problem children. That might be changing. A former Navy helicopter pilot, nurse practitioner, and mother of four, the 54-year-old Virginian is seen in the Republican conference as something of a model member, hailing from one of...
And see, like, they knew before they signed the bill how bad this was going to hurt America, like, as a whole, on health care. And now after the bill has already passed, like there was even a Republican that was like, fuck you, I quit after the bill was signed. And now they're coming forward like, as we get closer and closer, they're like, I don't know, we need to stop this. And it's like, you already signed the fucking thing. You already did it. You should have said no. Unbelievable.
The toughest swing districts in the country. She is viewed by her peers as personable and a team player. Of all the places Mike Johnson might have gone on the eve of the 2024 elections, the speaker chose to spend time with Kiggans, a strong show of leadership support for a freshman. But Kiggans, now in her second term, has decided to stick her neck out on what's shaping up to be one of the most politically explosive policy fights of the fall, the battle over extending boosted Affordable Care Act insurance subsidies that are due to expire on December 31st. Congressional budget forecasters are predicting major premium hikes if the subsidies sunset, which would force millions of people to drop health insurance coverage. Advertisement. 12 Republicans and 7 Democrats are backing legislation that would enact a one-year extension of the subsidies, which are implemented in the form of enhanced tax credits. Kiggans is the lead sponsor and the GOP face of the effort. In an interview, she called an extension good politics and good for her constituents. In 6 weeks or so, people will get a notice that their health care premiums are going to go up by thousands of dollars, said Kiggans. And at the end of the year, for people that either have this type of insurance and work in small businesses, are self-employed, I worry about their access to health care. The latest Capitol Hill clash over preserving health care policies enacted by Democrats, however, is shaping up to be a central battle in government funding negotiations ahead of a September 30 shutdown deadline and driving a rift inside the GOP in ways that echo party infighting over scaling back Medicaid in President Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. The dispute is also now pitting centrists like Kiggans against conservatives who have fought for years to undo the Affordable Care Act. And it carries major political stakes for Republicans as they gear up for their fight to keep control of the House next year. Advertisement. The Democrats' 2010 health law first provided for tax credits to help make premiums more affordable under the new insurance plans. But the 2021 COVID relief package supercharged those credits, making them more generous for people with lower incomes but also accessible to individuals making up to $600.
They're doing this, the sunset period, for something that we all rely on for health coverage, even health insurance companies. Everybody's premium is going to go up, hospitals are going to close down, all that. So they could save the sunset period to give a tax break to people who own multiple properties, and these properties are not just small houses, they're giant, enormous mansions, multiple yachts. Like, fucking Jeff Bezos is flying rockets into I don't think it's not the stratosphere, but like pretty much into space for a joyride. So that the sunset of the tax breaks to the tune of $6 trillion for people who live well beyond what they need in so many ways. They need some kind of tax break. That was more important to this administration, to this regime, than the farmers, the working class. 69% of the American population.
$1,000 a year. It's that enhanced version of the credits that will expire at the end of the 2025 without congressional action. One senior House Republican, granted anonymity to share their private view of Kiggans' support for the subsidies, suggested she'll be given latitude by her colleagues and leadership to follow her instincts on the credits' fate. Kiggans does her homework, and she understands her base or constituency and what needs to be done. Still, she's finding herself caught in the middle of warring factions that could test the positive relationships she's built during her short time in office, while also putting her political future at risk. She's going up against a swath of hardliners who in the coming days plan to ramp up their coordinated campaign against any extension, in part by arguing that the subsidies are used to cover abortions. Conservatives also say the tax credits are too expensive, and they are generally loath to support any policy tied to the Affordable Care Act. Advertisement.
No shit.
Representative Eric Burleson, RMO, a member of the House Freedom Caucus, said in an interview Thursday it would be awful if Johnson capitulates to demands from moderates like Kiggans to extend the enhanced ACA credits. Representative Andy Harris, RMD, chair of the hardline contingent, called the subsidies free giveaways to insurance companies. More in politics. Nebraska Republican escalates Trump criticism over Ukraine. You will be judged in the history books. The Hill. 891. Trump says White House's lavish new ballroom will be a little bigger than original plans, with almost 40% more guest capacity. Variety. Mindful of the INTR party fissures around this issue, Johnson has so far been careful not to say whether he endorses an extension, and certainly isn't tying it to a government funding package needed to avert a shutdown before October 1st. Republicans who support Kagan's crusade privately believe their best bet for victory is securing the extension in a second funding measure at the end of the year, but Democrats are making this linkage a condition of their support for the immediate stopgap spending measure. There's a range of opinion on it, Johnson said in a brief interview earlier this month. It doesn't expire until the end of the year, so we have time to figure it out. Kiggans has a track record of breaking with her party on some big issues but not tanking legislation to gain leverage. For instance, she was among the most vocal critics of the GOP megabills targeting of clean energy tax credits that are benefiting her district, but she still voted for the new law. She said this past week she didn't plan to shut down the government to get her way on the ACA tax credits, either. Advertisement. I represent a big military district, she explained, and people who rely on those federal paychecks. But Democrats, who see Kiggans' seat as a prime pickup opportunity in 2026, accuse her of being duplicitous. Jen Kiggans cast a decisive vote to rip away health care from 350,000 Virginians, and just this week 3 health care clinics in the Commonwealth were forced to shutter as a direct result of her vote, said Eli Cousin, a spokesperson for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, in a statement that referred to Kiggans' vote for the GOP megabill. Kiggans wants to trick voters before she is up for re-election, then sell them out right after, Cousin added. She is everything wrong with Washington politicians. Advertisement. Kiggans is working to thread the needle. She said she agrees with fellow Republicans that the credits are expensive and need to expire eventually. But she also made the case that her party needs to create a longer runway to discuss how to soften the blow of phasing out the enhanced credits completely. It's time to end these tax credits, but when it comes to health care, it's not quite as easy as letting them expire, especially when it's something at the end of the calendar year, Kiggans said. And I'm not alone. There's people on both sides of the aisle that feel the same way. And these are common-sense members of Congress that care about health care. Democratic co-sponsors of her bill include Representatives Jared Golden of Maine and Marie Gluesenkamp Perez of Washington, the co-chairs of the fiscally conservative Blue Dog Coalition. Among the Republican supporters are Representatives David Valadao of California, Juan Ciomani of Arizona and Mike Lawler of New York, some of the most endangered incumbents of the election cycle. But senior House Republicans have questioned the strategy Kiggans and her group is pursuing, according to 3 people granted anonymity to speak candidly about private conversations. These Republicans are, in particular, critical of the rollout of her bill, which did not include any of the reforms Kiggans acknowledged are needed to the larger program. Advertisement. This clean extension, many in the GOP feel, could put Republicans in a tough spot, including...
The reason why these Republicans in particular critical of the rollout of her bill, which did not include any of the reforms Kagan acknowledged are needed to the larger program. That's because they just want to shut it down. They are trying to gut a ton of spending so they can give people like Jeff Bezos $6 trillion, coming at the cost of our own health care.
Kiggans' fellow frontliners who have not signed on to her effort.
Fuck.
Full credits with high-wage earners is too far for most Republicans, said one of the senior House GOP Republicans, referring to how Kiggans' bill would fully extend the premium tax credit for 1 year rather than to put new income limits on an extension, as some Republicans have suggested doing. Some vulnerable GOP incumbents who haven't yet signed on to Kiggans' bill also acknowledged an income cap and other reforms will likely be part of any compromise. We want to make sure that affordability is maintained as best as possible for people, Representative Ryan McKenzie, RPA, said in an interview, while adding, I know there are some concerns that some have expressed about high-income individuals being eligible. Advertisement. Kiggans said the value of her 1-year extension bill is that it would, indeed, force a discussion about how to either continue the subsidies responsibly or wind them down in a thoughtful way. She advocated for a scenario where members could come to the table and hash out a long-term solution, recalling the consensus-building exercise that took place around making changes to Medicaid as part of the mega bill. That took a lot of meetings, a lot of late nights, a lot of discussions with people who happen to have skin in the game, said Kiggans. There are plenty of Republicans who believe Kiggans should stay the course and leadership should follow, warning an expiration of the premium tax credits could cost the GOP dearly in the midterms. A July poll by veteran GOP pollster Tony Fabrizio found that Republicans have an opportunity to overcome a current generic ballot deficit in 2026 if they allow an extension. Letting them expire, according to that same survey, would cause an expected 3-point deficit for a generic Republican to plunge to 15. Advertisement. Representative Richard Hudson of North Carolina, the chair of the National Republican Congressional Committee, said that everybody's...
Did that just say that... would cause an expected 3-point deficit for a generic Republican to plunge if they just let it expire? They're more concerned about their electability than they are with the damage that they are causing to the country. That's fascinating. That's really fascinating.
Voice is being heard on whether to extend the ACA subsidies. I think we're having internal discussions now about, kind of, where we are as a conference and what's feasible and what's not feasible, Hudson said in a brief interview last week. I'll wait and see how that develops before I say anything publicly. Kiggins insisted her party can't afford to wait. Republicans need to lead on this issue, she said. And we can. Cassandra Dumadi and Mia McCarthy contributed to this report.
I am glad that we have gotten to the end here. There we go. Am in pain. Got a flare coming in my neck. I feel parched. And I have to pee. But there you go. Today's articles. All right. And somebody had commented this, Aaron McKessa Armin. I tried to respond to the thing she said. Even constant 310 pain can make people go crazy. It's not good for you. It shuts down your endocrine system. Your body loses its ability to fight off infection. You have a empathic and sympathetic nervous system, and one when you have chronic pain, your sympathetic nervous system gets overloaded, and your empathic nervous system can't do its job. It shortens your life expectancy. It causes high blood pressure, high heart rate. Yeah, chronic pain, it can kill you. Imagine being old and having arthritis. That should gotta be painful. Arthritis. Thankfully, it's only due to injury, so my max move of range motion is limited to max range. Meaning I can still move my hand normally. Okay. She said, I'm a good journalist to figure something out. I don't remember what that, I don't know what that was. I'm a good journalist for finding that out. I don't know what she was referring to. Maybe she was, I don't know if it's a he or she. Maybe they're referring to what I researched on RFK Jr. Like I said, just looked up every single interview or articles with his interviews or things that he has said, and trying to find out why these people in the chronic pain community thought that he would give us our pain meds back. And everything I could find, yeah, he is nothing more than a holistic alternative medicine guy. He will not give our opioids back. He won't do it. He won't. I'm not saying that because I'm a leftist and he's right wing. That's not the reason. Listen to the guy talk. He hates pills. If it's a pill, he hates it. He doesn't like pills. I don't think I'm a journalist though. It's sweet to say that. A snake oil salesman. I would call RFK Jr. just really, really, really into snake oil salesmanship and pseudosciences, and he appears to have some aspects of eugenics. Not all chronic pains are the same. You can't just do physical therapy. Physical therapy is... I commented about that, to remove the pain from it, yeah. I think this is somebody from that chronic pain community. They know exactly what I'm talking about then. I think... Anyway, yeah. I have to pee. I am parched. I have a pain flare-up coming. So we got through the articles and all that. I'm going to go ahead and... I think this is so cool that I got that chat window to pop up. That's awesome. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and all that. I'm going to do like I did last time. I'm going to use the song that I made called We Want It Dark as intro, outro. I have other songs I could use, but for now, that's what we're going to do. So, and then, yeah, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that. And then after that, after the outro thingy-majiggy mabob plays, then I'm going to close out the live stream. Alright, so this is this one. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, it isn't this one. There we go.
Bye.